Hi, welcome to Judy's Losing It. And I thought I would talk about going to Mexico for bariatric surgery. That is what I did after I was denied bariatric surgery in the US by my insurance company, which was at the time so devastating, so devastating. But it worked out. It didn't work out immediately. It took almost 2 years. It took 2 years, but I got it. And I researched. There were a lot of people who I was following at the time, and like I said, this is a long time ago, and they went to a lighter me in Tijuana. I liked them, but when I contacted them, things got weird. I don't know, I just didn't know exactly how to deal with them. And every time I tried to figure out what a date or something like that, suddenly it was more money here, it was more money there. I'm not saying they're a bad company at all. For me, at that time, I just didn't like the feel of them. And I was seeing a lot of people who were recommending, at the time they were called Bariatric Pal Hospital MX. And that's where I ended up going. They have now changed their name. I have no idea. But they have changed their name, and they are Hospital BC. And they've completely been revamping since I was there. I liked the fact that Dr. Illan was, although he, works in Mexico, that he was also qualified to do surgery in the US. I did my research. I decided I wanted the gastric sleeve. In hindsight, knowing what I know now, I might have gone for the bypass, but I didn't know then what I know now. And at least I'm 4 months down my bariatric surgery road, and so I'm not unhappy with what I've done, and particularly considering how easy the surgery is. At the last minute, I was having a lot of nerves, and so I did like a global search for the hospital to try to find any kind of bad reviews. The only bad reviews I found were some people who felt that they were owed some money by the company, which that wasn't saying they ended up with all these complications or anything like that. So I felt as secure as I could going to a facility I'd never been to, and I had no one personally saying, this is great. Now, I saw YouTubers who had gone there and who were saying it was great, but I didn't know these people. It's really difficult. I've only met a couple of people in the town I live who actually had bariatric surgery. So yeah, it's really kind of tough to say, oh, by the way, this will be great. And both of them had surgery in Washington State. So probably in Seattle, but I'm not exactly sure. So I contacted the hospital in Mexico, sent my $500 deposit, set a date, sent my deposit, I bought my airplane tickets. Now, I was flying down at, when I bought the tickets, I was $355. And I had just traveled down to California with my brother, who is much smaller than I am. And so the two of us sitting side by side, I kind of overflowed into his area. I went down on Allegiant, which is it's a puddle jumper. So it went from my town in Bellingham. I got on the airplane here in Bellingham and directly flew down to San Diego. I decided that I and anyone else around me would be more comfortable if I bought 2 seats. And I'm glad I did. I thought I was doing something special for myself by trying to get more leg room on the way back, but that didn't quite turn out the way I hoped. Oh well, so be it. So I had all of those things, my down payment and my ticket spot. My finances have been rocky for so long, and of course it turned rocky right as I was wanting to have surgery, as I'd scheduled surgery. So really until the last minute, I wasn't sure if those airplane tickets that I had spent money on were going to be used or go for naught. So it was really, really stressful heading down to Tijuana. I also learned before surgery just to say Mexico, that I was going to Mexico for surgery. The words Tijuana coming out of my mouth, whether it was just friends or friends from the Mexican restaurant that I go to eat, they were all horrified that I was going to Tijuana. So I get on the plane and head off knowing that they were going to be picking me up in San Diego. Even before I got off the plane in San Diego, I'd gotten a text from my driver saying, hey, when you get your luggage, text me and I will come pick you up at the gate that you're at. So I didn't even get off the plane feeling like, oh, what's going on? So I got my luggage, got it all collected, texted him where I was at, sat in the sunshine a few minutes, and he pulled up. There were 2 other people in this little minivan, and I got in the front seat with the driver, and we took off. Because of the airline that I was using, I didn't want to have to drive 2 hours to SeaTac and back, and then the cost of leaving the car. So it was important for me to use Allegiant. They have limited flights though. I had to leave on a Monday and come back on a Friday. So with the program with this particular hospital, they set it up to be, what am I trying to say? It's a 3-day thing. So my first night, on Monday night, I spent at the hotel, something Real, and that they use where when you're done with the hospital, when you leave the hospital, you stay another night in this hotel. So it was fine. It was great. I'm only able to drink water and broth and popsicle. And the hotel, you're able to order the bariatric special, which I did for dinner. I had a little packet of dried broth with me that I'd taken, and I used that. Across the street from the hotel was a Starbucks. Water was my biggest issue because you can't take water through the airports. And everybody was like, oh, don't walk the streets of Tijuana. Oh. So I didn't. I stayed in my room, and that was a big mistake. I had a good 4 or 5 hours that I could have been out and about, just walking around. There was a big shopping center across the street that I didn't know about. I should have explored. I went to Starbucks thinking they'd have water. They didn't. It was fine. I got a couple of bottles, glass bottles, and then had my broth, and then went back to the hotel. I was picked up Tuesday morning by a driver, and I took all my belongings with me and a suitcase and everything, and They helped me down with the suitcase, got me in the van, and there was also, no, one woman who was going to have surgery the same day as I. The other woman who had surgery the same day as I did, she spent the night, she and her mother spent the night in the hospital. I'm happy I didn't. Then get to the hospital, they, you know, all the forms, I felt like all the forms I'd already filled out, they wanted me to fill out again. Fine and dandy, I filled out the forms. They took blood tests. They got all of the blood test results back just to make sure. They took a chest x-ray. You know, they just did a full workup just to make sure that you were ready physically for surgery. At that point, then they led us back to our various rooms, and I had this huge room with a bed in it, and it was just me. I went by myself. It wasn't a big deal. Surprisingly, it just wasn't a big deal. Probably if I'd had somebody with me the day before, we would have gone out exploring. But, you know, like I said, it just wasn't a big deal going by myself. However, you know, as I'm stripping down and getting into the hospital gown and da-da-da-da-da, and all of a sudden I'm going, oh my God, what if they're butchers? Oh, also, I had a brief meeting, a chance to ask a question or two with the surgeon before surgery. So we're talking early afternoon. I'm not quite sure when my surgery was. I have a feeling around 1 or something like that. And I'm wheeled in, and it was a very, what they call a hospital, I more think of as a clinic. So they had 2 operating rooms, and they have a recovery area. So they wheel you into the recovery area. And it's there that they clean down the wheelchair to make sure that no germs enter into the surgical area. Odd, but it works. And then I was put under. I remember waking up. The woman who had the sleeve, just like I did, she was right after me. We went to the hospital together, and she called my name, and I remember hearing her voice and kind of waking up at that point. I was out of it. I really wasn't able to call my family until probably 8 o'clock. I remember throwing up blood and being told that it was normal. I threw up a couple of times. And, you know, and then I kind of recovered from all of the anesthesia and everything in, you know, like I said, around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I called the people I needed to call, texted, and I just kind of fell asleep. Although I remember being really thirsty, and I wasn't able to have anything outside of like ice chips, and not that many of those until the next day. So that night was in the hospital. The care was excellent. You have a valet who knows English, and he comes in with the nurses, not all of whom know English. They're all very kind. They're all very helpful. Oh, and I forgot to tell you too, before surgery, I saw a cardiologist. I saw a internist. I mean, my particular medical history, there were some question marks. I wanted to make sure everybody knew what was possible, and yeah, everything went fine, but they were very, very, very thorough, I have to say, considering that they had only seen me there since like 11 o'clock in the morning. So, so they knew a lot about me going into surgery. The next day, they took me off to take an x-ray of my stomach. They needed to make sure I took a dye, some kind of dye, and it went through, and then they could check to make sure that there were no leaks. No leaks. Yay, me. And then I got back to the room and was able to, they brought in a tray, water, broth, 3 kinds of Jell-O, a popsicle, and I don't remember what else. And it was just like, holy cow, it's a feast. And then I proceeded to spend all day trying to get it down. They had me on an IV for a solid 2 days, which was good, I have to say. I think that that's why when you do go to Mexico, you don't have to worry as much about dehydration. I will get to that. So very happy with that part of it. And then I was able to take a shower. They helped me get dressed, and then I just kind of focused on walking for that day, you know, walking up and down the hallway and just getting up and moving. I was getting tired of being in the hotel room, or not the hotel, but the hospital room. Mine didn't have any natural light, so I felt kind of claustrophobic. My sleeve sister, who had at the same time, she was in, a great amount of gas pain. I didn't really have gas pain until later. So it hits everybody differently. Young woman that I met who had surgery, she was in the van going from the airport to the hospital. She was actually she had surgery the day before, and I saw her up in the hall walking, and she was in quite a bit of pain. So it just all depends. It all depends on you and how the walking goes and what your body does. I know they had us on some kind of pain pill. And so yeah, that was the second day. And I got a little bit, I went out into the foyer where there was a lot of natural light. I sat there for probably, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes chatting with a companion who was there. And then went to sleep. Once again, the care was great. People were kind. And yeah, absolutely no complaints. The next day, I took another shower, got dressed. They took the IV out, and they brought another tray, which I was able to get things down quicker. And then around 11, they came to pick us up to take us back to the hotel and to go on a tour of Tijuana. Our driver was wonderful. We weren't feeling the best, but it was fine. From the hospital, we went to the pharmacy because Mexico had passed a law. It was no longer legal for them to give us blood thinner shots to take home. And so we have to purchase those ourselves. Being a larger person, I was concerned. I just had gone through my hysterectomy less than a year before, and they had given me enough shots for a month, for 28 days. So I decided I would feel better spending the extra money to get 3 weeks worth. So it wasn't quite 3 weeks. A box was 6 shots. I bought 3 boxes. So a few days shy of 3 weeks, but you know, I'm glad I did. And I knew what to expect because I'd had to give myself all those shots a year ago. And so yeah, I was all set with that. Oh, and I forgot to tell you too, I saw the nutritionist before I left, and she came in with this huge bag of drugs, pain pills, omeprazole, some kind of antibiotic, and anyways, it was just like this big bag of stuff, a cleanser for the skin to keep your incisions clean. They do incisions differently in Mexico. In the States, they put that tape over it, and you know, you take it off after about 10 days. There they put more Band-Aids on. I have a tape issue. My skin becomes inflamed and everything. So I took, so they were careful. They put something different on me than they normally did. And I didn't realize it, but that night I was supposed to take another shower and remove the Band-Aids. I kind of knew it, but it's like, I was like, oh my God, I can't drink the water here. Am I going to let all this water, you know, get in my incisions? So I decided that I was going to wait until the next day to take care of my incisions. And oddly enough, I only have 4. Normally you have 5, and I only have 4. I didn't know to ask about it at the time, but yeah, so another story. So our driver picks us up on the 3rd day. That takes us to go get our meds. And then from there, we go back to the hotel to drop off our, get our rooms and, you know, just kind of put our suitcases away and be done with that. And then we gathered again and we went on this tour. He drove us to the beach where we were able to walk around some, which was lovely. We, you know, we went shopping. We, which at that point was a good thing. I knew I was going to need a bag. I hadn't saved enough room. I didn't realize I would be coming back with all these meds. So I bought a big bag that says Tijuana on it, and that was great to bring home. My niece, who was watching my dog for a day, I brought her back a t-shirt, and yeah, we went to another pharmacy and I bought Retin A because I know my skin was going to need, I mean, being older, I knew wrinkles were going to show up, so I bought that. And then the pharmacist insisted that I also purchase this face cream, which I'm actually liking a lot. I'm going to wait to see what I would think over time, but it's much thicker, much more protective, and it says it's for sensitive skin, so we'll see. We'll see. But I'm only just now using it. Isn't that weird? It's been 4 months in my cupboard. But yeah, I'm starting to use, I had another Retin A that I'm using up before getting into this too, but I'm using the face cream now, and hopefully I can find more. We went to a restaurant. My sleeve sister and I could have the, it was onion soup, the broth from that. And that was so delicious, so delicious. And we had a glass of apple juice and then water. They had Caesar salad. It was the original Caesar, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lovely place to have lunch, and it felt like getting back to normal. We walked around the open air market, and it was enjoyable. It was very enjoyable. It got us out, it got us moving. We were walking, we were having fun, we were entertained, and it was just a nice finish to the whole thing. He took us back to the hotel, and then I had dinner with my sleeve sister and her companion at the hotel, and that's when I actually developed a gas bubble in my abdomen. It was very painful. It was very sharp pain. She immediately knew what it was. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got this new pain. And it's like, no, I just hadn't had the gas pain like everybody else. So yeah, early night. Before that, excuse me here. I had a low battery thing. A doctor from the hospital came out and checked me all over. I wanted to answer any questions, make sure I understood how to take the medication, and also warned me not to weigh. Because, yes, I was very well hydrated. I was so well hydrated, I was actually weighing more than when I went in for surgery. So she suggested waiting for a week. But yeah, she checked it. She's like, yeah, you got a gas bubble here, you know, walk, it'll work its way out. And it did. And the next day they had all the paperwork in order. The driver came, met us at the reception, helped us out with our bags, took us across the border, made sure that got to the correct gate for where I was leaving from, and at the San Diego airport. Outside of having to wait around for Allegiant to open their check-in center, they only do it like an hour before the flight goes, and I was there over 2 hours ahead of time. Outside of that, it worked great. Got home, met by friends, and came home. My clothes were tight because of all of the added saline in my body, but it released, and it was just for, I don't know, 5 or 6 days before I was, you know, that was gone. But yeah, really a well-designed program. And one last thing I wanted to say about Dr. Illan at Hospital BC. In the last month, they have gotten extra certificates. I forget, some organization, they got certified by an organization, but he also is now an FACS, which is a special, you know, high-end certification for a surgeon. And that was one of the certificates you always wanted to look for going forward in surgery. I bought a $10 flash drive to have my surgery recorded on there. I haven't looked at it, I have to say. But yeah, it was a very good experience, and I really would recommend them. So anyways, in case you were interested in what happens when you go to Mexico for surgery, that was my story. Take care, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.